Hello and welcome back everybody. Today we're going to talk about Dr. Stone instead of My Hero Academia, which is my usual type of content of course. I did do a Dr. Stone video quite recently in the past, but this one is going to be a more of a predictive type of video because I'm going to talk about the upcoming arc that we're going to be seeing, which I kind of touched upon in that video as well, but at that time we didn't know anything for sure. We only speculated what might happen and what might be the next upcoming arcs and so on and so forth, but now we actually have a confirmation as to what they're going to be doing, or at least what they're going to be trying to do. Of course, there's no telling exactly what's going to come in the way in between right now and their ultimate goal, but we can assume it's not going to be that much, because even if they do manage to get the source of the petrification, then the story is not going to be over, you know. Senku has plans once he retrieves it, so yeah, I thought I'd do some predictions, quite vague predictions I would say, because it's a whole arc we're talking about. One thing that we do know is that Senku, Chrome and Taiju are likely going to be the characters in focus this time around, based on what Tsukasa and Senku were talking about, even though Senku did say to Tsukasa that it was simply pointless conversation. I think it's safe to assume Senku was trying to get Tsukasa's opinion, who he thinks would be the best candidates for an operation that's going to be limited to a very small number of people. And Tsukasa's answer was Chrome and Taiju for, you know, various reasons. Taiju being someone with a great level of endurance, and Chrome being a good scavenger and a secondary sort of scientist, someone that can really help Senku out a lot with the scientific work, whereas Taiju may not be as useful in that area. So I can absolutely see why Tsukasa would pick those two in particular. Now we don't, like I said, we don't really know for sure if it's gonna be limited to these three, but we do know that these three are probably going to be part of it. And I'm really looking forward to that, because that means that we're gonna be seeing some interactions between Taiju and Chrome, which we've never seen before. I mean, to some extent it is gonna be throwback to Senku and Taiju's early days, if it's only these three, because we're gonna see the type of interactions you'd normally see between these two, you know, a long time ago in the early manga, but we've never seen someone like Chrome interact with Taiju. So I'm really hoping that the chemistry between these two characters are something that is unique and something that we can really be looking forward to. One thing that we do know from one of the previous arcs is that the destination that they're going to be heading for is South America. We only know the continent, but just knowing the continent is quite good in my opinion, because it really does help, you know, knowing what direction you're going for. And you know, whenever you do end up setting foot in South America, true, you don't really know what country you're going to be heading for, but at the end of the day, I think Senku, he's gonna find a way to really be able to pinpoint where they're going. There's likely gonna be clues from the petrification beam. Now, I don't really know what type of clues those would be, of course, but I reckon, you know, Senku, he's going to find a way, and with the help of Chrome, he's probably going to be able to find even more clues as to where this source originated from, and they're gonna, you know, work their way there slowly, probably. I think this arc is going to include a lot of traveling, so I don't really think you're gonna see them staying in one place for very long. And of course, upon arriving in South America, I can guarantee you guys there's going to be surprises, even for Senku, and I'm gonna get into that a little bit because it is something that I really want to see, and on some level I kind of hope it does happen, but also not, because obviously I'd rather not be able to fully predict what happens, because that would make the story a lot more interesting if I'm actually surprised as well. But if I happen to be able to predict exactly what happens, then, you know, it's not really gonna ruin the story, but let's get into it anyway, okay? So unlike right now, there's going to be quite a bit of a step back in terms of what scientific progression they have, because if we're looking at the Ishigami village right now, they have a lot of these stations where they can produce a lot of good material, and they can easily create certain scientific breakthroughs or inventions that will help them along the way. But when they actually set foot in South America, it's going to be a lot different, and the reason for that, of course, being that they can't bring all that with them. They're going to have to either start from scratch or bring some of the science with them, you know, a very limited amount, of course, and have to stick with that. So I definitely think this is going to be a lot more character driven and adventure driven, rather than actually being as scientifically progressive as the Ishigami village arc and so on and so forth was. you know, where we saw all of these scientific breakthroughs and new inventions just pop up all the time. I simply don't think we're gonna be seeing a lot of that. I think it's gonna be a lot different in terms of how the arc is gonna be set up and how the theme of the arc is gonna play out. One of the reasons why I think that he's not really gonna wanna start from scratch, of course, and create all of these science again in South America. I mean, there's a very good reason, which is that Tsukasa is waiting for them to return. And although it's true he's in a frozen state, so technically there's no rush, but Senku probably doesn't want to waste any time. He wants to get this done as fast as possible, even if Tsukasa wasn't at stake, honestly, because he wants the source of the petrification as quick as possible. So just being able to get to that is something that Senku's gonna value a lot. He's gonna value it a great deal. One thing that I kind of could see happening is Senku bringing some of the miracle water, or whatever it's called, with him over to South America in order to revive some people over there to help them, because they may need some extra manpower, and that's probably the easiest way to go about it, because obviously these people would be people from the modern era, which means they're gonna have some knowledge, assuming they can revive people that aren't like how Tsukasa was at the early story, where they suddenly turn against Senku. I just don't see that happening. It'd be kind of repetitive, honestly, so it wouldn't really be to my liking, and I honestly don't see that happening anyway. But that's of course assuming that he does revive people, because he might not, simply because he might focus on other things at this time, seeing as, you know, he has a goal and he probably doesn't want to have too many distractions along the way. Reviving people could help him get to his point, but it could also create a lot of distractions and a lot of detours, which, you know, I don't really know how I feel about that. One thing that I really do want to see, and this is something that I hope a lot of people agree with me when I say this, which is that I do want to see some kind of civilization in South America that already exists when they arrive. You know, be it a primitive civilization or other people that have awoken from this deep petrification as Senku and Taiju were. Don't really care too much, honestly, exactly how that happens. I just want to see more people than, you know, the ones that Senku brings, because it would make the arc quite stale if it's that few characters that we're gonna be interacting with. Having a lot more characters would of course help a great deal in that regard, because if you have a primitive civilization, that will open opportunities for some other things, one being to let us viewers or readers see a parallel to what the Ishigami village could have been without the guidance of Senku's father and the other astronauts. If it's a modern civilization that's just done exactly what Senku's father did, except that these people are gonna be people maybe from that modern era, or just the descendants of them only a few generations behind, then we might be seeing a civilization that's a little bit more advanced than the Ishigami village were, which could also create quite the obstacle for Senku, because we need some kind of obstacle for Senku, even if that just means him having a hard time finding the source. But it could also be that the civilization in question is making sure that Senku can't actually get to the source of the petrification, which would also be quite interesting to see, honestly. Now, going back to the whole idea of a primitive civilization, one thing that would add some comedic value, but I'm not really saying that this is something that needs to happen, is that if this civilization has created some sort of religious bond with this source of the petrification that they will hold, it's so dear to them that they're not gonna let Senku get anywhere near it, because they have this bond. They've essentially gone crazy, you know, they're maniacs, they're mad worshippers of this source of the petrification, whatever it is, you know, if it's a bomb or if it's just some kind of scientific object or something else. We don't really know what it is, so all we know is that it created a massive explosion which spread across the planet. That's all we know. And it would be kind of funny to see, you know, some crazy primitive people just worshipping this thing and protecting it with their lives, making sure Senku, Taiju, and Chrome can't get to it. Especially since Senku does want to bring it with him. He wants to get this power for himself so that he can help Tsukasa. That's the whole idea here. He wants to actually take this power and bring it back to Japan, where, you know, Ishigami village is, where everybody's waiting for them. Anyway, that's really all I had to say for this Dr. Stone discussion or prediction video, whatever you want to really call this video. So I'd love to know what you guys think about these predictions, and I'd love to see what you're expecting expecting from this arc in Dr. Stone, because quite honestly, I'm really looking forward to it, and no matter what route it takes, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it equally much. You know, be it I'm totally wrong or I'm totally right. I certainly hope I'm wrong on the details so that I do have an element of surprise at least, but even if the entire prediction is completely off, you know, that's gonna be fucking cool as well. But if I happen to be spot on, you know, it's not really gonna ruin the story for me. Anyway, as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already if you want to see more My Hero Academia, Dr. Stone content, you know, whatever. I'm not really sure what I'm uploading anymore, but certainly My Hero Academia weekly reviews and occasional Dr. Stone videos will be more frequent, as you'll probably notice. And lastly, remember this: Toga is waifu, Toga is a laifu.